Throughout the afternoon, video after video posted from southwestern Iran showing a very different type of US sortie. Low-flying helicopters, a refueling plane, military experts soon identifying it as a search and rescue mission. Iranian media saying an American fighter jet had been shot down, posting an image of an ejector seat said to come from a two-seater F-15 Strike Eagle. Authorities offering a reward equivalent to more than £50,000 for the capture of the pilot or pilots. A holy Uzir and honorable people, if you capture the enemy pilot or pilots alive and hand them over to the police, you will receive a precious prize. US and Israeli media reporting this evening that one of the two F-15 crew members has been rescued, that after anonymous US officials had earlier been quoted confirming that a fighter plane had been downed. Iran continuing to fire well beyond its borders. A refinery struck in Kuwait today, where Iran also hit a power station and a desalination plant. That seemed a clear response to the US strike on this bridge outside Tehran yesterday that Iran said killed 8 people and injured dozens of civilians. My shin broke. When the second and third explosions happened, I was holding a girl and I was crossing the street. I don't know if it was a rock. So many rocks fell from the mountain, like rain, on people's heads. Donald Trump had called this attack a prelude to strikes on more crucial civilian infrastructure, electricity, water desalination and oil, if Iran refused a deal. But today he seemed to appeal more than bully, posting on his social media network, "With a little more time we can easily open the Hormuz Strait, take the oil and make a fortune." For now, it's Iran that's making money, allowing a growing number of ships through, some at a toll of up to $2 million. One oil industry expert estimating yesterday's traffic surged to at least 4 million barrels, a fifth of the pre-war volume. If all of Iran's friends can go through, that's quite a large number of countries. It brings the oil price down. It makes it less costly to carry on this war for the United States and Israel. Right, but Iran will control it. But as long as she gets the price of it, she gets what she needs from it, she will go on doing it. It's about who the territory belongs to, who is superior in Hormuz. And at the moment, Iran says, I'm the superior. And an intervention today from Iran's former foreign minister, suggesting it should use this moment of leverage to agree a deal consistent with national interests. In an article in Foreign Affairs, Shahbaz Zarif writes, Tehran should offer to place limits on its nuclear program and to reopen the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for an end to all sanctions, a deal Washington wouldn't take before but might accept now. Iran should also be prepared to accept a mutual non-aggression pact with the United States, in which both countries pledge not to strike each other in the future. But that came before the downing of the US jet, the kind of event liable to shift a conflict in still less predictable directions. And the latest direction does not seem a positive one. The Wall Street Journal reporting that the Pakistani mediation efforts have reached, quote, a dead end, with US officials not going to be able to meet Iranian officials in Islamabad in the next few days because Iran still feels that the 15-point US plan is not acceptable to them. There's also been mocking from the Iranian speaker saying that the US has, quote, claimed victory 37 times so far during this war, but still unable to find its pilots on the ground in Tehran. Israel reportedly postponing some of its strikes on Iran to assist with those rescue efforts, while Iran has still been firing ballistic missiles at Israel, cluster munitions hitting central Israel, 1 person injured, and the war to the north continues. Hezbollah firing on northern Israel, Israel striking Beirut, the US embassy there telling US citizens to get out while there are still civilian flights available to them to do so. Thanks, Harry. That's Harry Fawcett in Jerusalem. Let's go to Washington now and Kieran Moodley. Kieran, how does this jet coming down play for President Trump? Yes, the White House says that Donald Trump has been briefed all morning on this issue, but no statement yet, and there is huge concern about this missing crew member. I mean, what if they're injured? What if they're dead? What if they're captured by the Iranians? Remember how the Iranian hostage crisis really doomed Jimmy Carter's presidency, and Donald Trump mentioned that very crisis when he gave his first speech on this very conflict a month ago. And he's been claiming that America is winning this war. It doesn't look like that right now. He's losing the narrative. He's trying to wind down this conflict that is very unpopular here at home with Americans. And many voters and many members of his Republican Party want him to finish this war and focus on domestic issues during what is a crucial midterm election year. And all this comes, Kieran, as has been a sack-in at the top of the US Army, and President Trump is proposing a massive increase in defense spending. Yes, the Trump administration has asked Congress to approve a defense budget of $1.5 trillion. That's a 40% increase in last year. And he's also asking Congress to cut spending on healthcare, on education, and on housing. And as well, as you said, that firing of the General Randy George Army Chief of Staff. That's unusual to be firing the Army Chief of Staff during a war. So put this all together, it's not great news, is it, for the Republican Party? So why is Donald Trump doing this? Well, look, firing the Army Chief of Staff, firing Pam Bondi yesterday, rumors here of more firings to come. This is about Donald Trump and loyalty. It's about his stranglehold on the Republican Party. He's perhaps not thinking about November. He's thinking about Republican primaries in a few weeks' time. He wants to have people who are doing his bidding and who can pass that defense budget. But look, if Donald Trump is thinking about November, if he's thinking about primaries, the one thing he's thinking about right now today is that missing crew member and hoping that that story, this potential crisis, doesn't get any worse. Okay, thanks, Kieran. Well, Keith Nightingale is a retired colonel who was involved in the failed mission in 1980 that Kieran mentioned just there to rescue U.S. embassy staff held hostage by Iran. I spoke to him a short while ago and asked him about the race to find the second crew member. The first news is always bad and always wrong. The fact that they rescued one pilot and not the other causes concern with me, that the individual was, probably incapacitated or killed, during the ejection process or on the ground by some local. What might the Iranians do with the second person aboard that craft? If we assume that he or she was captured, this will be a major media event. What do you think President Trump is thinking right now? My impression is that he's going to be highly reactive with the military. He said that he was going to flatten them back to the Stone Age. Well, I think you're going to see that now. It's Colonel Keith Nightingale. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I've also been speaking to Payam Akavan, who's a professor of international law and the former UN prosecutor. I asked him if international law is being observed in this conflict. There have invariably been civilian deaths and injuries. Some of the targets that have been chosen are questionable. Some of the attacks are indiscriminate, and I would say this applies to all parties to this armed conflict. And we have to bear in mind that what we're witnessing today has been a long time in the making. It's the result of a cynical, divisive ideologies and geopolitics, and above all, leaders who don't care at all about the welfare of their own people. But when the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, speaks about bombing Iran into the Stone Age, well, that's certainly not a signal that there is a good faith attempt to comply with international humanitarian law. We also heard there the White House press secretary talking about killing Iranian leaders because they strung the U.S. along in negotiations. Since when is it okay within international humanitarian law to assassinate people because they lied to you? None of this is okay. That's putting it very mildly. The rule of international law was already tenuous before this war, but now it has approached a steep decline. We have the bravado of American leaders who don't even make a pretense now of respecting international law. We have the Islamic Republic, which massacres its own population, speaks about wiping Israel off the map. This is sort of a race to the bottom, isn't it? Because at the moment, there's reports of a U.S. jet that's being shot down in Iran. Now, the U.S. would expect and demand that if those crew are recovered, that they are treated in line with the Geneva Conventions by the Iranians. Much of international law is enforced based on mutual respect, especially in times of war. A good faith attempt at not attacking civilian objects, places of worship, cultural objects. So all of this begins to crumble when there is really no willingness to try to at least attempt to humanize warfare. At the least, an attempt should be made to distinguish between combatants and civilians. And I'm not sure if that is really being done in these circumstances. Professor Payam Akavan, thank you so much for speaking with us. Thank you.